Steve, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. How you been keeping? It's all completely crazy, isn't it?
Well, it's not much difference for me if you're unemployed.
What about
If
unemployed? Sorry.
you're vaguely unemployed, it doesn't make much difference.
Okay, I can't imagine you being unemployed somehow.
No, I'm pretty unemployed. Hold on, I'll start the video. It's just let me just.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. Yeah, no, I'm pretty much unemployed and unemployable.
Unemployable, I understand, but because that's about being quite an individual, distinct type of person. So I understand that bit, but I wouldn't say I would still think you'd find ways to keep yourself busy and do stuff.
Well, I know I keep myself busy and I'm doing various bits and pieces, but as a
Yeah.
proper
Okay.
job, that's a different matter.
Okay. All right. So I'm conscious we've only got 30 minutes, so I'm interested in your actual situation beyond the particular subject. So if it's okay, I'd like to sort of have a separate conversation afterwards, if that's
Yep.
okay.
Sure.
Fabulous. Okay. Because it always grieves me when I see good people kind of not maybe doing as much. I mean, but obviously I need to find out what that actually means because knowing you're probably very, very busy. But anyway, yeah. So
Well, I'm involved in various projects, but not particularly. They're it's a random startup world is random.
exactly random. Yes, I do know what you mean. Absolutely. Okay, so let me come back to that. I'll come back to that. If I may. So the reason for this call was because I'm a trustee with a local charity. They've got geolocated servers currently. My thought is that it surely must be possible to gain some kind of economies by kind of thinking about cloud-based services. But that's as far as I know.
Right.
I've always been, my background's always been apps rather than hardware side or network side. So you're preaching to the totally ignorant here. So anything you say is going to be helpful.
Okay. So
So
what is the?
I'll give you a bit of a background. I mean,
Yeah.
they've got four kind of major systems. One is call logging for carers. So when they visit people who are caring for others, care support workers, that's the first one. The second one is there's an HR system. The
Yep.
third one is we're talking about QuickBooks, obviously, as you would expect at some point or another somewhere. And the final one is just general admin. So you've got a server and you've got stuff floating about on it of various sorts.
Yep.
And that's it as far as I understand currently.
Okay.
My one concern as a trustee, we're supposed to be safeguarding the business and obviously all of the various participants. So from a hacking perspective, I don't know whether geolocated servers are any more or less safe than cloud-based servers. So that's kind of one question I'd like to kind of understand a bit more about. And then the other thing would be the cost-saving thing, I think, really, as to, can we ideally improve the way that we work and take some of the headache out of it, and ideally save costs at the same time? And I don't know the answer to either of those questions.
Right. So, well, it depends how it's. I mean, it's not a a one-off simple solution. So moving anything to the cloud comes with, risks and benefits.
Yeah, sure. And it's about knowing what each of those are and then hopefully fitting it to the local scenario.
Yeah. So as a, generic cloud thing, you can go to Amazon. I mean, we're doing that at the moment for some websites that I own that have for GBNet, because I used to be, I had some nice hosting in a data center in Park Royal, and unfortunately, that was computer. That was done many years ago, and I had a very nice deal with Demon Internet, who then went, you can have 2 racks and unlimited bandwidth, and it was all very nice. And then they went, well, actually, we're not happy with that. Hold on a minute, I've just got to do one thing here. Apologies, I've just got to go into something here before it times me out and then kills me.
Oh no,
that's my account before it says. I should have done this. Let's see. Oh God,
we all live very busy lives now, so.
No, it's just that I set something up and I've got to log in and change the password before it resets and locks me out. The beauty of modern technology, that you have to live within its constraints.
Of course.
Let's hope that
again
works.
Risks and benefits.
Indeed. Yep. Okay, that's done. Cool.
Super.
No, now I can go back to normal. Right. Perfect.
Good.
Plug that in there now, and that's all set. Perfect. Thank you very much.
Right. Yeah, no worries.
So, so we've just knocked up a couple of micro instances on Amazon. They're virtually free. The only thing we have to pay for is a bit of DNS routing stuff, which you have to, because you have to use Amazon's Route 53. It's actually pennies per month.
Okay.
Because it'll be such low traffic that it's not worth. But that's just if you suddenly want to port a equivalent of a dual Xeon with 8 cores on each, and with a how many gig of RAM, that's a big instance on Amazon, and that's going to start costing you hundreds if not thousands of pounds a month.
Right. Okay.
So Amazon is really good. No, but
Sorry.
I'm just saying, Amazon's really good when you want to run really small. If it's like if you're there are advantages, obviously, that you're not worried about the hardware. You don't have to do anything about reliability, because that's what Amazon do day to day. But obviously, you have to build your services so that they, if you don't have a some kind of fault resilience in there, Amazon do have server failures or network failures, so that instance can be knocked out. If you don't have something to provision that back very quickly, you can be offline for a long time. And a lot of people build something on Amazon and haven't worried about what happens if that system collapses. And therefore there is a big DevOps part of it. So if you don't take that into consideration, now that could be as you can basically snapshot an image of what you're running, save that as what they call I think they call an AMI, and then you save that, and then you basically go just reload that AMI, and that provisions a new box with everything.
Wow. I just need to ask a couple of questions. I mean, obviously that's an amazing thing, but
you have to have a pretty sophisticated IT department to be able to do that. Yeah,
sure. Just in terms of what you would define, or what AWS would define as small, what would be the parameters that would the ceiling, if you like, on small?
So I think I can't remember what our servers are, but they're basically the cheapest instance that you can get, which work out a few dollars per month.
Okay.
That's I would say that it's probably equivalent to what was an old Pentium with. But no, I mean,
really?
it's running. It's probably something running at 2 gigahertz or 1 point whatever gigahertz, with 1 core with X either 100 meg or gig of RAM, and
Yeah.
it's actually got 32. I know it's got 32 gig of disk. 32
Let's
gig
say
of disk.
let's say we've got maybe 20 people who might want to be accessing it at the same time, roughly if we take a normal working day, if we ever get back to those.
Yeah. I mean, then you're looking at a bigger server. You're talking at tens to hundreds of dollars per month.
Okay.
I mean, probably starting at 10, but it depends what you want to do. Like, so for example, if you're running Sage and QuickBooks,
Yeah, QuickBooks.
there is a hosted version of QuickBooks, and you can migrate to that. Now, obviously, Sage have their own pricing for that.
Yeah.
But it will be cheaper than you trying to implement that and put it onto an Amazon instance.
Yeah, and I think you're right to kind of talk about the backup scenario, because one of the risk calculations is, if it's offline. And the other thing I was going to ask you was, how long is a long time offline?
Well, no. I mean, if Amazon have a failure, that instance may be knocked out, and it won't come back up until you reprovision it.
So you need someone remote who can A, pick up that that's happened, and B, reprovision to.
But I mean, Amazon have lots of different ways of making sure that you can get around that. For example, they do things like, I mean, the whole point with their thing is that you've got elastic hosts, and you've got also, whatever the how do you call it, they can do load balancing between lots of servers. So you can actually provision hots, and set it up as, you get a single IP address which goes through their internal system and maps through to different internal addresses internally. So you can have, and you can set it up as a hot spare, or as a load balancing. You can do all sorts of clever magic with Amazon. And they're all, Google do the same, Oracle, even now people like Red Hat with OpenShift and all these, anyone that's, or IBM. In fact, IBM own Red Hat now, but IBM bought SoftLayer as their hosting capability that was very friendly in terms of startups, and is now less friendly. But but they have lots of stuff that is that is relevant to be able to build scalable systems.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I mean, what you were talking about there, you were talking about I forget the exact phrase, but it wasn't hotspot and it wasn't hot desking, it was hot something or other. But if you could have a server available on that basis as backup, would that then be saying, you would kind of double your costs, but then you'd have that extra resilience?
Yes.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. That's good.
It might be, it might be better it depends on what the loading and stuff is, but it might be better to actually have not hot spare, but you load balance between two smaller servers.
Yeah.
And then if one does go down, you just have to be able to provision the second one back up again.
Sure, I see.
It will still work, but just reduce capacity.
Okay, that's a good.
And there are, I mean, Amazon and Google and all those, they have, and Microsoft Azure, all have facilities to do that sort of thing. And some, basically there's also lots of other stuff, like, so there's something called, have you heard of Kubernetes or Docker?
No.
So they are what they call micro or containers.
Oh.
So when you're hosting, if you go onto Amazon and take a standard instance, what was the EC2, an elastic compute, you get a bare metal box. It's EC is elastic compute.
Oh, okay.
So you basically get a virtual bit of hardware,
Yeah.
which is a Intel x86
All right.
64.
Oh.
Well, it's basically like a PC,
Okay.
but
Okay.
you're buying a small chunk of someone else's big metal.
Sure. I've got it.
And originally, when these things came out, so when Amazon came out with EC2,
Yeah.
it basically was you installed a Linux system on there, or Microsoft Windows, whatever you wanted to do.
Yeah.
But it's a full-blown operating system.
Yeah.
So it has support for disks,
Yeah.
and it has supports for a VGA or a display,
Yeah.
and it has
Can you?
support for all these other bits of hardware.
Yeah.
But when you're actually running compute in the cloud,
Yeah.
you're really just going, here's a bit of compute, and attached to that, I've got some network storage somewhere, and
Yeah.
I've got some memory, and I've got some networking.
So kind of fragmentized a bit.
Well, so then so when you originally went onto someone like AWS, you purchased a x86 machine. So you bought a PC, a server, and then you installed an operating system onto it.
Yeah.
And the operating system may be Red Hat, or it may be Linux, or whichever variety of Debian or CentOS or whatever you wanted to put on there.
Okay.
And then you install that operating system, and that operating system has got everything on it.
Mm.
And then you go, okay, now we'll install some packages. And if you look at some of the, when you build a server, it's like instance a server.
Yeah.
Then there's a script that goes on there that pulls in all the packages that it needs.
Mm.
And then it configures that. Then it pulls in the configuration files from somewhere, and then everything else is up and running again. Now,
how much of all that is provided by the service provider? I mean, is that?
Well, no, but so if you buy a bare metal Linux box,
yeah,
it's like buying a box at home. You have a server, you install the operating system, and then you install the packages and the software that you need.
Yeah,
it's exactly the same on Amazon.
Okay.
So and the same on Google, and the same on whoever. And so what they did is they came along and went, oh look, there's all this Linux stuff here, and actually you're removing 99% of it, because you don't need a display. So then people like Docker came out, and then Google with Kubernetes, and basically they stripped. So it's a container that basically is Linux, but with all the gumph stripped out of it.
Right.
So then you basically build a image for that container.
Yeah.
And then if you use Docker, there's a repository of containers. So if you want to run MySQL or whichever other database, you can pull in a containerized version of that database. So all it does is it goes, I know I want some access to some disk.
Yeah.
But we're no longer using physical disk, we're using network disk. So I don't care about any of the drivers for physical disk, because we don't have physical disks anymore.
Yeah, okay.
And so rather than like if you load a version of Linux, it may take up 1.2 gigabytes on disk.
Yeah.
And it's a big chunk of monolithic software that is sitting there.
Yeah.
Containers may take up hundreds of K, because you've ripped off all these device drivers that you don't need for all these multitude of disks. Because, if you have to, so, one of the big things with Linux, it will work on anything.
Yeah,
so it has a driver for SCSI disks, for IDE disks, for SAS, all these but on an operating system in the cloud, you don't need any of that, because you don't have any real disks attached.
Okay.
All the disks are virtualized.
What about if you need operating system upgrades?
Again, it's you can either you would upgrade. So that's what I'm saying. You can when you so say you just take a normal virtual machine, an Amazon normal standard Linux instance.
Yeah. Are we saying it's one update as opposed to however many instances there are wherever?
Well, it depends how you configure it. That's the trouble.
Ah,
So if you go, when I provision that instance, load in Ubuntu,
yeah,
which is Canonical's what do you call it, Linux.
yeah,
So when you load it, it will be loading a specific version of that
yeah.
operating system, and
Okay.
and Amazon have a shitload of operating systems that are pre-configured to work on Amazon. You go, I'll pick
Yes,
that one. You
yes.
load that, and then you would have to load any applications you want on top of that.
A man on the street such as myself decide which of those systems to kind of choose off the shelf? What sort of support does the man on the street get to make that decision?
Well, you would probably, if you're going onto Amazon, you'd probably pick a pre-configured Amazon operating system that they support.
Yes,
You can install anything you like, and
yes,
then they also have something called an AMI.
yes,
So what you do is you load all your operating system,
yeah,
you load all the applications you want on it, and Amazon have pre-built AMIs.
yes,
But you can go, I'm going to build this thing with all this stuff on it. It then is basically a machine,
mm,
and then you save that as a machine image.
okay,
And next time you provision, you will get exactly the same configuration with
yeah,
everything pre-built, because it just takes a snapshot of the
yeah,
operating system and saves it with all the applications and all the configuration files stored on there.
okay,
Now
and
that
that's
that can be
basically,
quicker
yeah,
because you've obviously pre-built it before, but
yeah,
it may be a few versions out of date
yes,
and whatever. So, but these things are not what you would, if you're a charity, you're not, unless you've got a big IT department, you're not going to be doing something like that. You're going to,
no,
so what you are, if you're running Sage locally,
yeah,
the best thing you can do is then,
QuickBooks,
or QuickBooks. There is
yeah,
an online version of QuickBooks. You just go, I want
mm,
the online version, and there is a straight migration path where it will suck all the data from your local QuickBooks into the cloud version and
mm,
do exactly the same thing. They've worried about security. They've
yeah,
worried about how to scale it and do all the stuff that you normally have to worry about.
yeah,
And therefore, you just run it in the cloud, and the only thing you have to provision are users. So there'll be an admin account.
yeah. So I'm thinking. I mean, I'm thinking that there's two things. I mean, user accounts are sort of straightforward, but there is still a technical need to make sure that systems are provisioned as and when needed, plus the need to make sure that there is sufficient processing capability in whatever configuration is chosen to make sure
Yeah.
that any outage can be at least worked round. So there probably still needs to be a technical person in all of that. Would you say that's about right?
Uh, yes and no. I mean, it's.
I mean, bearing in mind we're talking about a charity, so I mean, a technical person might understand, let's say, Windows as an operating system, but they're
Yeah.
pretty unlikely to. I mean, and if they do, it's kind of more by luck than judgment.
Right. I mean, if you're looking at, something like, I mean, as in something like QuickBooks,
Yeah.
the admin, if you've got someone who can admin QuickBooks locally, you've got someone who can admin QuickBooks online.
Okay. Yeah, I get that. Sure.
It's a slight quirk because you will have to add users and there's a
Yeah.
slight increase of admin that is needed,
Yeah.
but it's not a huge amount.
Sure. Okay. No. Okay. I'm just trying to get an idea about if we can cut down on the support side,
Yeah.
that's an area where we could save a little bit on costs. if we can cut down the time it takes to do some of those admin tasks, then that's a potential saving. So I guess that's the sort of direction that I'm looking.
QuickBooks Online means you've got nothing to locally. You go through a web browser.
Yeah, sure.
And you're paying per user per month.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But I think if we think about the general admin, a lot of work is actually done via the general admin.
Yeah.
There's probably too much emailing stuff. Whereas what we should do is have better systems where people can find documents on a shared server and co-design or co-edit those documents, work on them.
So who do they use for?
Just a Microsoft. It's just a Microsoft network at the moment. So there's
a local it's on site. A local Microsoft server.
It's on site, yes.
And is it running Exchange or anything?
I think it's running I think it's running access through the network. So there are network boxes.
Yeah.
And typically you just plug into the network box and that connects through in-building wiring to the server. So I think it's physical connection.
Right.
I'm at the limit of my skill set here, because it's not something that I've had to do in a real life situation. I'm kind of trying to pick up the reins here, and I've been asked to, as possibly the most technical of the trustees, to do a review like this, which I think will end a series of questions and points raised as part of the discussions that I've had, which we can then say, okay, what do we think is really important out of all of this?
Yeah.
So it's not as clear cut as I'd like. I wish it were more clear cut, and I apologise for that.
So I would if things like if you're running used to Microsoft and how are they doing mail and stuff?
Normal Microsoft Office
365.
It is Office 365.
So if you get Office 365, that comes with things like SharePoint and OneDrive.
Don't know if we're using SharePoint.
So SharePoint is basically their collaborative functionality.
Okay.
And OneDrive is their, remote centralized storage.
Don't think we use OneDrive either.
But but I'm saying if you get Office 365, that's what it comes with. So again,
so this is one of those situations where we've got software, but we're probably using 60% of it as opposed to 80-90% of it.
So
okay, well that's worth.
So
that's
Office
worth
365 comes with a load of tools that, and especially for a charity, you get it all for free.
I've been here before with this business about you're only using 60% of the software you've got. That's in yeah.
So Office 365 is a the suite, and also if you're not using it for free, you should be, because Microsoft do have there's a charity, I can't remember what the site is called, it's like charitysoftware.co.uk.
Fabulous, thank you.
And then you go on that site, and as long as you are registered as a charity, you get access to all that software for free.
This might end up being a training exercise in why do we need to use those two softwares and what and how how do we use
if you've got Office 365, you get email, you get collaboration with Teams, which is their equivalent of sort of Slack on steroids. I don't know if you use Slack.
Do we get do we get Teams as well as part of that charity package?
And then Teams, people don't realize this, but for all its, stuff that Microsoft do,
Yeah.
Teams is actually phenomenally well. They've done integration, so it uses standard SIP and does standard stuff. So if you want to do things like, Teams will integrate with a VoIP provider.
Did you say voice?
VoIP, yeah,
VoIP.
voice over IP, but using, and it will just, you can just go and through Teams provision a VoIP service,
Right.
and then with that you get all sorts of, all your call recordings. So as long as someone's using the Teams bit in the middle.
We are plugging. I know we're plugging our phones into the internet boxes. So whether that means we're using the voice over IP, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, if the phones have Ethernet connections out the back, they'll be voice over IP.
Yes, I'm pretty sure they are.
Now you'll either have a local server, or a local PBX on premise, or you'll have a cloud PBX.
I need to. You're giving me some great questions to ask, which I will go away.
But that's the
point. I will go away and I will ask.
But then, if they're doing that with voice over IP now, they can replace all that with Teams.
Oh.
And then Teams has, or doesn't replace it with Teams, integrate it with Teams, and then Teams has the facility to do voice recording and all sorts of other, it's like Zoom but with all the other stuff. So it's Zoom and Slack and everything built together. But rather than Zoom using completely proprietary, it's all standardized.
I'm going to make a probably an uneducated guess about this. I've just helped them set up lots and lots of Zoom capability, which then makes me suspect strongly that there is no understanding of Teams currently, and some of the other factors that you've mentioned. So I think you're actually giving me some great questions to ask, and I can go back to the guy in question and say, blah blah blah, here's this list, what do we think? And it could be something that we could just explore, to go down that particular route. And if that's not something that we've understood up until now, then that's an oversight from the people that we've been looking to get support from so far. So that's something for us to look into. You're certainly giving us some great questions to ask. Thank you.
No, I mean, that's the, and that's the thing. I mean, obviously, if you go to the Teams route, you are embedding yourself in the Microsoft ecosystem. But if you're already using Office 365, why not use the full capabilities of Office 365?
Sure. Great. I was conscious that it came up about 5 minutes ago and said we've got 10 minutes to go.
No worries.
Is there anything else? Is there anything else that I should be thinking about in this respect?
The only thing that, obviously, the more stuff you need moved to the cloud, the more decent internet connection you need.
Yes,
so
indeed.
I don't know what connection they've got and who deals with their internet stuff.
Good point. Thank you.
If you do need a sensible connection, I know lots of people in the industry that can that can help with that or get you a sensible quote.
Lovely. I do like sensible quotes. We're Northwest London as well, whether that has a bearing or not.
Well, it depends where you are, but I can always get a quote for if it depends.
We're in.
So if you're a lot of people, companies stupidly, and I say this without disrespect, but they go for a consumer internet connection.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what we've got.
So, if you're going to start, and if you're 20 people and start moving stuff to cloud, I would seriously recommend getting a fiber connection. Now, depending on what you've got and what is in the building, and where in Northwest London are you?
It's in Harrow. In fact, specifically North Harrow.
Okay, if you're in an office block, there may already be stuff in there for other people. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Without that, we can look at that another time. But
Fine.
A gig link, it's not cheap. I mean, it used to be $1,000 a month. It's now gone down to about 500 grand a month. If there's connectivity already in the building, you can probably get it down to 5K a year.
Okay.
Now, that's not cheap. But if you're moving having a 501 gig connection with 20 people, that means they're going to get all their voice calls down there, all their whatever and whatever else, without actually having to, without worrying about, interference and because if you're on a random ADSL line with a 20 meg upstream and an 80 meg downstream, that is going to rapidly run out of, when you're running Teams and running 20 people on Teams and doing collaboration and video and whatever, that's rapidly going to run out of steam.
Okay, lots and lots. You've provided some fantastic stuff, Steve. Seriously, thank you. I mean, that's going to help me to build a proper profile of what we've actually got. By asking the right kinds of questions, because I don't think we've got that at the moment. It's not properly documented. So I'm hoping that the questions that you've asked, I can also ask, and we can build a proper profile.
Okay.
There's this separate question about why is a good person like you kind of to some extent twiddling your thumbs, but do you want to kind of have a separate discussion about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not twiddling my thumbs. I'm not employed.
No, well, employed's different. I know employed's different. So, it would be good.
I am doing bits and pieces, and I'm an advisor to two company. Well, one is sort of a non-exec. Long story. Was a non-exec. They restructured the company. I'm not, but hopefully will be again.
Okay. Fingers.
That's just a random. It's not by design. It's by when they restructured the company. They restructured the company, and I was part of the old bit, and when they did the new bit, they just hadn't dragged everyone across. I'm still a board advisor, but anyway, that's not the point. But so there is lots of stuff. I'm doing stuff like so they're doing this. They're doing machine learning stuff. They're doing really well. I'm also involved with a girl doing messaging stuff who's not doing so well, and but she's just.
We got a minute. Got a minute or so left, Steve.
Okay, so I mean, anyway, so I'm doing bits. I'm just not gainfully employed.
Right. Okay.
And I don't have a gainful salary coming in each. Well, I would do, but that's from other bits and pieces. But I don't have a job salary coming in, and I'm actually looking for advisory / non-exec / part-time stuff that I can therefore squeeze everything in. And
let's have a separate conversation about that, because we are running out. So I mean, good to see you anyway, and catch up. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
So
let me if you need any more, just let me know, and I can. But if you're running Microsoft already, that's probably the best bet, and just expand on that.
All I would say is stay well, stay safe,
well, and you
look after yourself. So, but lovely to see you.
And you.
Thank you very much. I will likely be in touch. Thank you. Cheers.
See you soon.